Well, I'd like a beer to see something naked. Everyone, welcome all to SuperHouse Black, where we swear even fucking more than we usually fucking do.
Gets a little blue.
And we are just even edgier than an edgelord from 1995. This is our Joker movie release, deep dive, and review. I am Lord of Edge, Andrew, and I am once again joined by...
Ben Juan. Good to be here, Marie. Andrew.
And...
Hey, this old Wolfie Cruz. What it do?
And guess who's calling in all the way from Seattle? You haven't heard his voice in so very long. How's it going, Maddie?
Oh, it's going pretty good. A lot has changed since I was on SuperHouse Podcast. I don't know what SuperHouse Black is. I'm very nervous. I didn't know there would be so much language.
Okay. All right, so before we get to the actual release of the movie, let's talk about the things that led up to the movie. There was actually a lot of shit that happened before the movie was even out. So, first up, we had Mark Maron saying this on Conan.
I was not in a Marvel movie.
Right.
I have some issues with.
You don't like comic book movies?
I have some issues with them, and no, I generally don't like them because I don't want to be bullied into seeing those. Look, Conan, I'm a grown-up. I'm not 7, and I think those movies are for grown male nerd childs.
And he's in Joker. He's at the
He's
at
in
the end of the movie.
one scene of it, so I'm like, what? Yeah, two. Well, yeah. Just
Come
in the
on, Ben.
background,
Did you
but
even watch it?
That's how little I cared about Mark Maron in this movie.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I never listened to his podcast either. As much as I am,
I didn't know who the fuck he
podcasts,
was until that movie. I mean, until that Netflix show.
Yeah,
He's
that's-
great in Glow, though.
He's like a hip, crabby old man.
He's
Yeah.
actually likable most of the time, I think. But with
Glow
this,
is great.
Yeah. So, that was from Heroic Hollywood. Then cut to about a week ago from the time of this recording, a week before Joker came out, we had Todd Phillips fucking right the fuck up.
Phillips?
Todd Phillip? What's the name?
Phillips.
Todd
You said
Phillips.
Willips.
Todd.
Like, who?
You called him Todd. You called him Ty.
It's like
Willips.
Todd Willips.
He's Todd Phillips from
I see
now
a lot
on, man.
hasn't changed at SuperHouse Podcast, which is very nice.
Good old Todd Willips.
You called him Ty Willips.
Still can't talk, still drunk. All right.
Rod Willips. Rod Willips had this to say in a new Vanity Fair cover profile from Joaquin Joaquin Phoenix. Willips explains why he left comedy to direct his new dark comic book drama Joker. Quote, "Go try to be funny nowadays with this woke culture." And then having those words out loud in a room where other people could hear him. I swear to God, he kept talking. That's the guy writing this up at Vanity Fair. He said, quote, "There are articles written about why comedies don't work anymore. I'll tell you why. Because all the fucking funny guys are like, fuck this shit because I don't want to offend you. It's hard to argue with 30 million people on Twitter. You just can't do it, right?" Okay, so in response to this, Taika Waititi said on Twitter about Phillips saying you can't be funny anymore. Taika said, "He funny."
Keep in mind, anybody not familiar with Taika Waititi, he just released a movie where he plays an imaginary friend Hitler set in Nazi Germany, and it's a comedy.
It's going to be amazing.
Dude,
He's the funniest man on the planet.
Doug Benson says it's incredible, by the way, from
Yeah.
Doug Loves Movies. I started listening to that again.
Nice.
Took years off. Anyway,
Hi, Doug.
yeah. And then on the Friday of release of this movie, it was revealed that Scorsese also doesn't have a very high opinion of Marvel, saying, I don't. You have some note here, Ben?
Oh yeah. You can skip that. But I mean, it's basically Scorsese. Like, why do we bring this in Joker? Because his movies really influenced the movie in general. So it's kind of tied into it.
Influence is an interesting word. But
Yes.
keep going.
Also, well, produced also put some money in.
Well,
put his name attached
it's
to
not
it.
on it anymore.
Also,
Oh yeah, he took it off of it. That's right. He said, quote, "I don't see them." Talking about Marvel movies and shit. Quote, "I tried, but that's not cinema. Honestly, the closest I can think of them as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being. End quote. That's from Collider. That's a pretty well-respected source, I think. Yeah. Let's actually put a pin in this one real quick. And what does everybody think about this? This won't be a huge conversation, but Maddie, it's been a while. What do you think of good old Marty shitting on Marvel?
I mean, we're all allowed to have our opinions, but you can be wrong. I mean, whatever.
We're all allowed to be wrong, Marvel.
I don't know. I don't care. I mean, I like his movies. I like Marvel movies. Am I going to watch The Irishman? Fuck yeah, I'm going to watch it, and I'm probably going to fucking enjoy it. But I'm not going to stop watching fucking Spider-Man movies because old Marty was like, it's not real cinema, buddy. Well, you know what? Maddie thinks it is, Marty.
Why do you got to be so goddamn reasonable, Maddie? Stefan.
What do I think about those comments? Yeah, I kind of can, in some way, I can see where he's coming from in terms of like how much these films are all like crossovers and serials. You know, it's like on the level that he's been lauded at. You don't see like the old Batman serials having like the same effect as like Casablanca or something like that. So I think where he's coming from is that classic film sense of like, yeah, these are like fun popcorn fare. Right. Probably another thing he would say, a popcorn picture. His old
popcorn
ass
picture.
But
these talkies.
But yeah, I'm just happy he's still alive and making movies with digital technology. It's wild.
That's like a fucking backhanded.
You said he took his name off of Joker?
Was that
I mean, they were reporting that he was an executive producer, but he's not actually. His name isn't on it, so you don't know whether or not he really is. If there actually was a discussion or just a rumor. Just like Leonardo DiCaprio was supposedly who were recording, but Phillips says that they were always looking at Phoenix. So you don't know what like names get thrown around just to get like good press and shit. So as far as I'm concerned, he's not actually involved in it.
Yeah, I guess
there's some speculation that he also took his name off of it. Well, A doesn't care, but like he was pursued for it because they wanted to avoid being sued for copying him so much. Just if he could have his name on it from the get-go. Yeah, speculation, but who knows? Ben, Marty quotes.
Marty quotes. I don't agree with him at all. I think he's just being a senile old man about this old shit because I'm just like, look, why like. I get that it's not for him, but it's pretentious and condescending, I think, to talk about, like, oh, it doesn't have the emotional thing about psychological human beings. I'm just like, okay, did you only watch, like, Thor the Dark World and Ant-Man and the Wasp and stuff? Because that would be understandable.
Right.
But I'm just like, you can't, like, watch something like Black Panther or even just, like, some of the, like, the biggest stuff from Endgame that I love, that most people love, had nothing to do with the actual action. It had to do with a lot of the payoffs. Like Tony Stark's sacrifice is like such a big thing. You can't tell me that they never really explored like the psychological underpinnings of any of this type of stuff. You flat out had Tony Stark with PTSD in a movie.
Right.
Stuff. So and people keep bringing up James Gunn and Guardians of the Galaxy. There's like all these other different examples. So I don't agree, and I don't like this condescending nature towards it. That said, I do agree with Maddie in terms of like that's not going to affect my love for his movies, for the ones I love, and I'm still going to see The Irishman. So I
am done.
Boycott
Marty.
Now I'm only watching Guy Ritchie films.
For me, it's like if it was just some jackass saying that's not cinema, I'd be like, okay, buddy. But it is Martin Scorsese fucking that made Goodfellas and all kinds of shit saying that, so I'm like, I get where you're coming from, Marty.
Yeah, but also like I'm sure there were days where he had controversial shit like Last Temptation of Christ, and people probably were saying that's not cinema either about his shit.
Yeah, it's pornography.
And also like cinema is art, right? And if the point of art is to feel something, well, I personally felt a lot from Guardians 1, Winter Soldier, Avengers, I mean, I had great times in the theaters in all those movies. Are some of them throwaway? Yes, for sure. I mean, I'll probably never see Ant-Man 2 again in my life. And that's got all
Ant-Man 2 is great. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now. That movie's awesome.
It's better than the first one.
I mean, it's good, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm just saying, like,
Are you saying it doesn't convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being?
Not enough to me. Not enough to me personally.
What do you know?
But, It's
Evangelos.
just like whatever, dude. Everybody
Wait a minute. So Scorsese can say that, but Andrew says it, and they're like, wait a minute.
I don't need fucking high cinema every time I fucking go to the theater either. You know what I mean? Like I like the wide spectrum of film, and sometimes you want to fucking watch one thing, and sometimes you're in the mood to watch something else, and that's it.
I just don't like this attitude of being told what cinema is or isn't, even if it's from somebody like Scorsese.
Agreed.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like
It
also got way too much press on fucking
It's just
Twitter,
kind of
too.
cute to hear him say such things. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
Scorsese.
it's just like,
go back to counting your money with just a calculator.
yeah, it's like basically like your grandparents being like, oh, you and your funny little like tablets and phones and shit. Like, okay,
Yeah.
obviously
See-
outdated ideas.
See you in the future, Gramps.
Yeah.
Eat my dust. Eat my
shorts.
dust.
Oh, it's from
I'll be
early
able to
90s.
just think a movie by the time you're fucking deciding whether or not to pull the plug. Just kidding. I love you, Marty.
Marty, and your eyebrows. All right. All of these quotes could be an episode in and of themselves, but let's move on from that to reports of the government warning against incel violence. By the way, it is Sunday as of this recording, and basically there's been nothing that has happened, which is good news. But let's go into what people were thinking anyway in the run-up to the movie. IO9 reports that the Army said that, quote, a separate memo issued on Monday by senior officials in the U.S. Army's Criminal Investigation Division stated that the Army had obtained credible intelligence from Texas law enforcement officials pertaining to, quote, disturbing and very specific chatter on the dark web, end quote. Oh, no, that's not an end quote, actually. Anyway, regarding the targeting of an unknown movie theater during the release, that's end of the quote there. So they did actually have some activity in this area. Apparently, they did have to probably block somebody, I guess successfully. I actually have the official memorandum in the from the Army themselves, too, actually. Let me read you that real quick. Fort Sill, S-I-L-L, I don't know if that is. CID office received an intelligence bulletin regarding a credible potential mass shooting to occur at an unknown movie theater during the release of the new Joker movie scheduled October 4th, blah, blah, blah. The intelligence bulletin was published by Travis County, Texas Sheriff's Office and working with the local FBI field office. They have discovered disturbing and very specific chatter in the dark web regarding targeting an unknown movie theater, the release. Already said that. And basically that's it. But yeah, so seemed like something might have happened, which is sad,
Some guy
of course.
just probably tried to take a shit in his seat or something.
I don't know. If it was dark web
terrorism.
If this report is 100% accurate. I mean, I don't know anything on the fucking internet anymore, but I mean, it never did, but definitely now.
Sounds dumb.
Yeah. We're going to get into theater experience too in a minute. But anyway, IO9 also states that, quote, the gritty film starring Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. Phoenix. Hooked on Phoenix. Reportedly makes strides to depict its titular character in a far more realistic fashion than his comics counterpart. Rather than being transformed into the Joker after falling into a vat of acid, as the villain so often does in depictions of his DC Comics origin, a harsh life compounded by constant mockery and inability to, quote, get the girl, end quote, is what ultimately led to his rise as the infamously batty executioner of comic book lore, end quote. That's from IO9. And then also, Ben, you had more info on this originally, I think, but we had those reports of Phoenix. IndieWire stated that he left an interview after being asked a polarized question. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. I mean, he was asked, are you worried about Joker perversely end up inspiring exactly the kind of people it's about with potentially tragic results? Phoenix replied, quote, why? Why would you? No, before abruptly walking out of the interview with that exact tone that I just said.
You saw the video?
No, I didn't. I'm just
lost
fucking
He probably did have it.
It probably did sound like that, though.
Probably did, yeah.
And then Zazie Zazie Beetz. I don't know how to
I'm
pronounce
going
her name.
with
Sorry.
Zazie.
It's Zazie.
Zazie
Is it
Beetz.
Zazie?
Zazie.
Zazie.
Zazie Beetz.
Zazie.
Also
Zazie.
asked at Tiff if Joker has too much empathy for his title character, to which she replied, it's kind of an empathy towards isolation and an empathy towards what is our duty as a society to address people who slip through the cracks in a way. There's a lot of culture of that right now, so is it empathy for that, or just an observation on personalities who struggle? So basically, she gave a very diplomatic answer about what the movie's about.
Diplomatic. I hope she wrote it for herself, but it seems like something a PR agent might have written for her. It's so well done.
I think the PR tendrils are all over this film.
Yeah, because they knew this was going to happen.
I think even
Yeah,
the hype of all the whether or not it would incite violence, I think is. And
Well, we're going to get that in a second, yeah.
It's really good. And then we had this clip of Phoenix walking off the set.
Funny making fun of me. Like I'm a diva. It's not even an insult. Cher, really? She's a singer, actor, dancer, fashion icon. How is that an insult? I can't do this, man.
Now, what happened there?
And then there was publicity stunts. You know more about this as well, Ben, or what?
Okay, well, this is about my opinion on it.
Okay. On Jimmy Kimmel.
We can cut to this part, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So if you want my opinion on this, I don't trust a goddamn thing that Joaquin Phoenix says in a press junket ever since I'm still here. Do you remember Letterman? Like,
amazing.
That right away.
none of this type of stuff is actually like him storming out of the interview. You like sure promise it. Some of it's probably because he didn't, want to answer that. But also, I'm sure some part of him wanted to like that is a press move. That is something that people would talk about. So there's that. The whole Jimmy Kimmel thing has already been revealed as being like, okay, that was a quote unquote joke outtake that they gave to Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay.
That's the only way that makes sense. How else does Jimmy Kimmel on ABC somehow get behind the scenes footage secretly from Warner Brothers and airs it on
wouldn't
live
happen.
television without getting anybody sued about it? And Joaquin Phoenix is just going to let it happen?
Yeah.
So all this stuff is
detective
just
work.
related. I mean, well, yes. But all this stuff is not all this stuff. Like, I don't think necessarily, like, sure, maybe some of the hype around I know you said, Wolfie, about, like, maybe some of the, like, incel violence stuff could be somewhat PR type stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they went that far. I mean, there was a moment the other night when the sexual harassment claims against De Niro happened where I'm just like,
Oh, yeah.
part of me was wondering, like, wait a minute, is this just out so that we can root for him getting shot in the head at the end of this movie?
Shit.
Like, I'm getting, there's so much mind fucking going
Spoilers.
around with this that, I mean, if you're listening to this, then you already have seen
You've
it.
walked into Spoilerville.
But I was like, even the part where Phillips was like, hey, like, go try to be funny. It says in the Vanity Fair article, having said those words out loud in a room where other people can hear him, I swear to God, he kept talking. Like, I don't think like Phillips was completely unaware that would not be controversial. He had to know.
Yeah.
He had to know what he was saying, and he had to know that was going to be in the press. Because at no point when talking about the making of this movie did it ever talk about, oh, I'm transitioning to out from comedy to drama because woke culture and stuff. He never brought that up. He only brought up that he wanted to do a different type of comic book movie. And then suddenly, maybe like a week before the movie is released, he decides to say this controversial quote that gets everybody enraged, and he gets the exact same reaction that he's talking about. He's talking about, like, people are too outraged these days. And what do people do? They get outraged.
You
It
think
exactly
he's actually
proves his
trolling?
point.
He's
I think he's
trolling his
trolling.
audience.
Plus, Arthur makes that comment in the movie. He says that
Right.
in the late talk show host, you guys get to decide to be what's funny and what's not. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure all this stuff is some sort of weird Joaquin Phoenix way to blend reality
I
and
could see
fantasy
that.
together.
And Todd Phillips being like, yeah, that's
Because
smart.
Warner Brothers, Warner
Thanks,
Brothers
Joaquin,
is
boy.
basically laughing their way to the bank, as they say in all the headlines, because of the whole Joker
Right.
pun. But they
Right,
are,
right,
because
right,
this
right,
movie's
right.
making money. We're talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's going to see it. And we've all fallen for it.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Joke's on us, for sure.
I mean, we were going to see it anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, we're kind of the demographic on this one. You know what I'm saying?
What did Mark Maron call us?
Male
Nerd child?
adult male child, male nerd childs. He didn't say children, by the way. He said childs.
Yeah, well,
That
Mark
was
Maron,
his
you get to
quote.
be a part of getting watched by those male nerd childs in this movie.
Oh, he loves
Just
that paycheck.
Fuck off. He loves a paycheck. Oh my god. All right, so now we're moving on into the review section. But before we get to our own review, we have just one more bit of business. We want to go over other reviews leading up to the movie. And Stefan, if you will look at the Skype chat real quick, I was wondering if you could read this.
Do you think Todd Phillips, who co-wrote and directed Joker, and references those movies so often you might expect that Martin Scorsese was enlisted as an executive producer here as a way of headlining off a plagiarism lawsuit. He dropped out not too long after signing on, however. Really cares about income inequality, celebrity worship, and the lack of civil and in contemporary society. The storyline in and of itself is not a total miss, but once the movie starts lifting shots from A Clockwork Orange, and yes, Phillips and company want us to let them use the Saul Bass studio logo for the opening credits in white on red, yet you know its priorities are less in entertainment than in generating self-importance. As social commentary, Joker is pernicious garbage.
That was actually Glenn Kenny from RogerEbert.com. But okay, let me read.
Yes, that was the shit on it review.
That was okay. So now we're gonna do the glowing review, which was supposed to be first. But all right, here we go.
Sorry, I gave him the wrong one.
Joker the film may ask viewers to empathize with its central protagonist, but it doesn't ask us to forgive him for his increasingly evil choices. As many real-world parallels and inspirations can be uncomfortably drawn from Arthur's descent into violent madness, the film knows he's deranged not to be romanticized, merely understood. Joker isn't just an awesome comic book movie, it's an awesome movie, period. It offers no answers to the unsettling questions it raises about a cruel society in decline. Joaquin Phoenix's fully committed performance of and Rod Phillips's masterful, albeit loose reinvention of the DC source material make Joker a film that should leave comic book fans and non-fans alike disturbed and moved in all the right ways.
Says Ronnie Smith, age 14.
IGN, top reviewer,
Juggalo for life.
10 out of 10 leading up to this fucking movie. All right. Okay. Train's pulled in, everybody. We're finally there. The review section. Woo! We made it. All right. Maddie, the fuck did you think about this movie?
I don't think I like movies anymore.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I just kind of walked out of it and was like, all right, cool. So I watch a lot of horror movies. So when they're like, oh my God, Joker's so violent, I was like, yeah, no, what? Like, yeah, I guess there's some unsettling stuff and more realistic violence. But it's nothing I haven't seen before. And I'm sure it's all just like the hype machine being like, oh, let's cause controversy because it's a first rated R Joker. Thought Joaquin Phoenix was fine as the Joker. To me, Heath just did a better job, and I think it's because I kind of want Batman in this movie. Mm-hmm. I think Joker works better when he's against Batman. I like not knowing a backstory. I don't really need to feel anything for Joker. Like when Heath even says, is like, my dad put these scars on my face, you know, it's just like, oh man, that's pretty fucked up. I don't need to see it happen. I didn't like what Joker I honestly wish he would have just fell in a vat of acid. Like, I don't know, just fucking lean into the Joker, man. This whole like, oh, we're gonna make it like a Scorsese like Taxi Driver movie is like, I've already seen that movie and it's great. I don't need to see the Joker that way. I thought the costuming was cool. I liked a lot of the music and the score I thought was really good. But so there's that scene in the trailer and in the movie where he's like walking down the steps dancing and the cops are at the top of it and it's playing this really popular song which I cannot remember the name of. And then it cuts.
It's called Rock and Roll Part 2.
Yeah, and then it cuts to the score. And I was like, that is the worst music editing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I noticed that myself.
And it's like, and that whole scene like in the trailer looks so good because he's like in slow motion. You're like, oh man, this is him turning. This is it. But then it's all like normally shot and looks weird, and then it slows down and does the score thing. And I was like, why didn't you just use the whole score and have him like dancing down these stairs in slow motion? I mean, I'm here for 2 hours, man. So like fucking, I'll be here for 5 more minutes. Like that scene to me, I was like, do you even know how to direct a movie, Rod Phillippe?
Rod Thomas.
So
Rod Willis,
I don't know. I think Joaquin was good. I would like to see him in a movie with Batman. I think he would be better. I don't know. So the whole like him being on a talk show and being like doing his whole spiel and then shooting De Niro in the head, I was like, this is it. This is your like, he's Joker and he's changing things moment. And I was like, I guess because it's TV and whatever. I don't know, man. I just like, it was good. It was fine. It was shot well for the most part. I don't know, man. It's like the last couple times I've been in the movies, I've been like, I don't think I like movies anymore. Because it's like, I would just much rather
feeling to get after a movie.
Yeah, I would just much rather go watch Taxi Driver.
Grass grow.
Oh my god.
Are we doing
We're
like
generally a very positive
I'm
podcast.
speaking for
Are we
him.
like doing in theater stuff?
We're hold
Okay.
that thought. We're gonna get to that next.
But yeah, I mean,
after we
at no
do the
point
go-around.
during this film was I like, oh my god, be over already. Like I was there for the journey. I just didn't think when it ended, the journey was that great. So
All right,
That's my 2 cents.
Wolfie.
Yeah.
Here we go. You've been waiting on this one.
Oh, I just will have to say that it's obviously not a movie that is as bad as some of the other DC movies in terms of the way that I approach what I'm about to say. However, I think as a comic book movie, it's all right. It's like kind of looks cool. It's got some cool characters.
He hated
in
it.
I think. But and then as
Here we go.
as like a film in terms of it being good or not, I think
As cinema.
as cinema, yeah. I don't think it's a very good movie. I just don't think at its core base levels in terms of like either being interesting, compelling, or entertaining, I don't think it really has too much to offer that we haven't already seen. I think that it's not as deep or as clever or as socially commentative as it portrays itself. Hold on, I wrote some of this down so I wouldn't remember.
Oh, nice.
And, you know, I don't want to feel sympathy for a sad sack of shit Joker who turns because this is the way society willed him. I want to love to hate this villain and not be able to look away from his horrific acts because of the brilliant evil genius that's there. I just don't think this movie's like clever. And I find it kind of funny that for Todd Phillips, who's known for doing comedic films, finally makes a movie called Joker, and it's not even the least bit funny in a comic book kind of way, and as much as his experience kind of way. Like it shows no semblance of him getting the character personally, honestly. And I think it was just kind of like a mediocre movie. Again, looked great, costuming's good. I find Ledger's Joker is more interesting in terms of his conception on screen. And I think Joaquin Phoenix is awesome. There's some really good moments when he does his like uncontrollable laugh, which I thought was a stupid thing to play throughout the whole movie. This uncontrollable laughter disorder or whatever he had. Like there's a lot about it. I could just pick it apart. But overall, it just didn't do it for me. I think it's kind of a large Scorsese meme with the Joker slapped all over it. And it's not even a Joker I really enjoy. So I was kind of like left underwhelmed.
Ben.
I think you guys are as insane as the Joker because I fucking loved it. And you know, I think it comes down to what type of Joker do you prefer, and I think I've seen so many different versions that I've come to find it more interesting seeing how he came to be or the psychology behind all that, rather than a lot of the versions we've seen before where he's kind of just being. Like I was thinking about this on the way over because we'll eventually talk about Ledger versus Phoenix, and to me, Heath Ledger, as great as that performance was, he didn't actually play a character. He played a force of nature, but didn't play a human being. And Phoenix is playing a human being who turns evil, who turns into the Joker. And how does that happen? Does it come from Scorsese? Yes, but not nearly as much as I was expecting, having recently seen those movies right beforehand. I think that the big thing I do disagree with is the feeling of what you guys said in terms of like not feeling anything new, which like, look, if that's how you feel, then that's how you feel, obviously. But I felt there's something to be said about how it feels new when it's in the comic book movie context. Because Chris Nolan, if you're a Batman fan like us, he didn't actually give you anything new about the character or the world in his movies that you didn't already know as a comic book fan. But as a comic book movie fan, he brought that to life in a way that you hadn't seen before. In a similar way, I feel like with this one, yes, it does crib from some Taxi Driver stuff. It cribs from a little bit from the Killing Joke here and there, combines it. It's not something you haven't already seen, that I personally haven't already seen before. But it's done in a way, and it's done in such in front of the mainstream audience, that I think there's something to be said about the guts to say, like, hey, we're not going to do an Avengers. We're going to do this R-rated thing that's inspired by stuff that wasn't really a big blockbuster, but is seen as like art cinema. And we're not going to have a heroic character at all in all of this, and Batman is not going to be part of this, and we're going to have any comic book elements of that. And if you told me that was what DC was going to do after all these Justice League attempts, I wouldn't believe it. So the fact that this movie even exists is a fucking miracle in itself. That it even does, regardless of whether, how you actually felt about it. Little things I liked. I do agree the score was great. I've been listening to it in the car ever since. I did like the addition of him dancing after committing the murder, because it conveys the idea that murder is when he's at his happiest. And I've never really thought about how you would have to convey that outside of him just laughing after killing people. I did get chills in the scene when Arthur and Bruce meet. Originally, I was originally underwhelmed, and then as it got further and further, I got more and more chills, especially when he introduces himself, and you just know that the whole relationship is going to be based off of him trying to get Bruce to smile. They also had the little Easter egg with the bat pole. I said out loud, I was like, nice.
Which part was it?
When he slides down that bat pole.
The kid does slide down a bat pole.
Oh, nice.
Which kid?
Or a
Bruce
pole.
Wayne. Bruce Wayne.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I totally thought that too.
Yeah. I felt
Yeah.
like I went over some of the Easter eggs and stuff, and I felt like there's such like kind of a stretch. Like, I read that as just a kid going down like at a playground.
It's definitely.
Or whatever,
I think it's definitely on.
I
Because
think
some people
so,
were
yeah.
trying to say like, oh, he paid homage to Heath Ledger, kind of with that shot of him being behind the police glass and Ledger being out of it or whatever in the back. Of the
yeah,
police
I
car.
agree with
And I'm
that.
like,
That's-
this is
that's a
just
stretch,
a
yeah.
nice looking shot of a dude. You've seen that in every crime movie, is the
Yeah.
dude in the back of the car with that nice
Yeah.
shot. I'm like, come on, people. Anyway, that's my opinion on that.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there was some controversy, not really controversy compared to other stuff in this movie, but excuse me. Ugh. Let me try that again.
Let her rip.
Take two. All right, take two. There were some opinions about this movie where it was like, maybe they shouldn't have had any of the Thomas Wayne stuff or the Bruce Wayne stuff, and I don't agree with that, because I do agree with you
It was the
guys
coolest
that,
part.
yeah, like I think that you can't really do Joker without Batman or Bruce Wayne being involved in it. Like, name a great Joker story that doesn't have Batman or Bruce Wayne in it.
I mean, they just don't write that enough.
yeah,
They got
but
close.
you can't
with
Ben, I
this.
need you to answer that question because I don't know of one.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't one. It doesn't exist. There's plenty where, like, maybe he fights Superman, he fights the Justice League, but Batman's not around. But, like, nobody knows with them because they're not that good. Because this character is based around Batman and stuff. So I think you need that. And I think it's kind of a twist on the 1989 Batman, where it's just like, yeah, he is kind of the cause behind the death of the Waynes, but he's not the actual shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
They
we'll
do
get
fit
into
well.
that.
Those
his
two
force
in a lot of ways,
caused
maybe.
it.
Yeah, and I did like that a lot. Where it's not as forced as the Burton one, where it's just like, oh, by the way, he killed your parents.
Right,
As opposed
right,
to this one, where it's just like, it felt
Good
like
old Jack.
Yeah, it felt like the inevitable conclusion to that. The scene, I do agree that he wasn't quite the Joker, but I think that was kind of the point. But I think he wasn't really the Joker to me until. Really, even in the talk show host scene, I was like, this is still Arthur. The only time where I felt like he was Joker was when he was fucking around with the dwarf's emotions and whether or not he was going to kill him.
Yeah.
That to me was like, that is
yeah.
the unpredictability of the Joker right there. You
Can
don't
I-
know if he's going to do it or not.
Can I just say one thing about that scene that I didn't, the end scene in the talk show or whatever, that I didn't get to point out in my little review, was that monologue at the end that he gave that's supposed to be like so pivotal, and like right before he says you get what you deserve, was like the most like whiny back of the class 8th grade protest like I ever heard. Like there was just absolutely no power behind it. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it could have been written better because I'm just like,
it didn't do anything. I was
it's on
like,
the nose.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, I get the gesture in terms of like, here's a guy who's been overlooked and stepped on through the whole thing, and now he finally gets his time in the limelight, and that's what he chooses to do with it. So to me, I fucking loved it.
Right on.
Nice.
Right on.
Well, there are some things I didn't like. Okay, sorry, I forgot one more thing.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think it should have just ended with him on top of the car. I didn't like it.
Yes.
It felt
I felt
over
the same
long.
way.
Where I'm just like, why are we in this hospital? It doesn't add anything to it.
God, choose when to end, motherfucker.
Some picky
Before,
stuff. I don't know why the fuck the Waynes would go to the movies when they're saying that there's going to be protests going on.
Right?
I'm like, that's kind of weird, but
Right,
okay.
true.
Because Thomas is like, we're going to see the Gay Blade today.
That's another thing. I'm just like, okay, I get that Mark of Zorro, there wasn't really an 80s Zorro movie, but you're going to say that was Zorro the Gay Blade? Like, maybe you should, like, just do a different movie.
Yeah, right.
That's the best one.
Yeah, whatever.
It's the gayest one.
That's not the problem. The problem is the you call it a plot hole or what not written well. What
Yeah,
you
it's just like,
said,
why
yeah.
would he do that when he knows that this is like a big
Yeah.
thing that's going on? If Thomas Wayne is that in tune with
Thomas
the
Wayne's
news,
full
and
of
it's like,
Unless
eh.
he's just so egotistical.
Unless he thought that. I mean,
Nothing's gonna
he just
affect
thought
me.
there was going to be a protest. To be
Yeah.
fair, he only thought there was going to be a protest. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking my way out of this. There was going to be a protest.
true.
You don't usually
Instead of
think,
a
oh,
riot,
a protest means that I can't go outside my house.
I think at its
Protest and riot doesn't mean the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody thought that was going to happen. That only started happening because of the cop getting
Yeah, dude,
shooting that
and
guy, and then all that stuff.
They didn't have cell phones. They couldn't check the news real quick on their phone. Come on, man.
maybe it was a special
Jeez, they watched
engagement.
TV
Wait, now you
before they
agree
went out.
with? Now you
He
agree
agrees with this point.
I did like that they flipped the dynamic of like having Thomas Wayne being portrayed as a scandalous political person. That was cool. And the part where he thought for a minute that he was actually his son, and there was this weird for a half second like disparity between brothers kind of thing going on. And then I also like that no, you were adopted, and he's kind of like now he's really a nobody. I loved that, and that's kind of where the movie like lost me. Sorry to. Yeah.
Wait, you love that, and that's where it lost.
I
you?
liked those elements of the
Oh, I see.
film, but that's after that it just like didn't like. Then they went back to Zazie Beetz, and I was like, why is she here?
Yeah.
Other than to be like he can't get a date, you know what I mean, or whatever. It's like that's such a total waste of her talents. She was like absolutely
barely in it,
unnecessary in the movie. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
And last thing I didn't really like, and this is really picky, but I didn't care for the Alfred that they had in this. To be fair, he's the first Alfred with facial hair
I liked
since
how
Alan
chunky he
Napier.
was.
Yeah, I'm just like
yeah.
he doesn't look like the character. He doesn't really act that much like the
That's
character.
true.
He's fine
Yeah.
in the actual part. The actual performance is fine. It's just I'm like, if you're gonna get one guy to play Alfred, you might as well get somebody who looks like the comic book or something who looks like the other Alfreds we've seen. You know, I'm just like,
I wish he wouldn't
It's-
have been
I
so
don't know,
like when he's like the Joker's like squeezing his neck. He wouldn't have looked so afraid. I don't know. I just like
I don't
been
mind that.
Unhand me, you scourge.
Yeah, like I don't mind that as much, just because like
Starts fencing.
not all the Alfreds are
should have
badass.
like slapped him.
He
through the
fences
thing.
even in Batman 66, man.
I just
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of, yeah, I guess I agree with you with the, I wish Alfred, like when he walked on screen, you would be like, oh shit, that's Alfred. The whole time I was like,
Yeah.
is this Alfred or
Yeah, I
who the
was like
fuck
that
is
too.
this?
It's
Yeah,
the British
I-
guy around Bruce.
Yeah, like if he looked like first off, if he looked like the comic book Alfred come to life, then
you
I
think
would
it
have
would've-
fucking lost my shit because I've always wanted an Alfred who looks like the comic book Alfred,
Yeah.
rather than
that
just
would've-
taking some random British dude and just making him be himself.
Right.
But
Do you
this-
think from Todd Phillips' perspective that was like too
Rod
on
Willis.
the nose? Rod
I mean, maybe,
You know,
but
so he's like, I'm gonna do my, this is Guy Ritchie version. Of
yeah, but we
Alfred.
also have that like scene where Thomas Wayne is just like, what type of coward would do this? Only a man in a mask. Like he's not above putting in like references to it.
right.
And
And
the
I like that
Batgirl thing.
actor, but they could have did it better. Thomas Wayne. I guess it was a smaller budget. Never mind, he was.
It was weird because he was in the
got
Dark Knight
Beau
Rises.
Bridges.
So
He was?
he was
That
the
guy?
senator like the Catwoman seduces in the
Oh,
beginning.
yeah, that's right.
Though originally it might have been
Thought I'd
more.
seen that guy before.
It might have been more distracting originally because they offered it to Baldwin. They offered it to Alec Baldwin
Ooh,
originally.
never mind. Perfect casting. Could not stand a second of Alec Baldwin. I'll tell you that much right fucking now.
Liberal. All right. Is that it, Ben? Or
That's it for me. Now it's your turn.
okay. Man, I wrestled with this one. Very tough. I'm in between Stefan and Maddie's low opinion and your super high opinion. I am. And I got to say, I said this to Stefan to Wolfie whenever we walked out of the theater. If I had seen this movie when I was 25, this movie would have been the greatest fucking theater experience I've ever had in my entire fucking life.
Like Boondock Saints.
Better than that. Way better. Like, God, it's
Shep as we
just,
will be.
I'm actually, like, upset with myself in how much I've grown. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Like, it's similar to what Maddie said about, I don't know if I can like movies anymore.
You guys
Not
are
quite as
old.
bad as Maddie, I think, but God, it's just like, I don't know. It's like I'm more upset at myself. Like I feel like I should have enjoyed it more, and I did. I did enjoy it, and the script is written very well. Like it's a character piece. It takes from Scorsese probably a bit too much at times, but like the beats all make sense, and it's very powerful. And I did feel something about mental illness. Like I felt like, man, we gotta fucking up this mental illness game. You know, we gotta fucking like start helping people out. This thing's not happening. It's not having any jokers to happen in the real world anymore.
Mexican Joker.
No Mexican Joker. but like, I don't know. Like, maybe I went in with like really high expectations because of the 10 out of the 10 and all this other stuff. Maybe that killed a little bit for me. That probably was it for a little bit. But, like, yeah, I liked it a lot. I don't know. I was very hesitant about the Donald Trump, Thomas Wayne walking into it too, but I thought that was a good change. It worked for this movie. I do view this movie as an Elseworld story, like the comics, and so it's cool to take liberties like that. The Bruce stuff was cool. 100% agree with Ben. It should have had that dolly back from when he's on the car. Fade to credits. You in there. That's it. Boom. You're done. Perfect. And the blood with the smile. I thought that was fucking awesome. It's also incredible to see how a supervillain can attain henchmen.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, how does Joker get people? Because this explains it.
A realistic way to get crazy people on your side, because you are crazy too. Like
Mentally ill.
For the PC audience.
And things like that. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just the laughing disorder thing. I agree with you a little bit, a little bit on that. Like I did actually really like it, but maybe there was like one or two times where he used it a bit too much, and like him crying too. It's like
crying while laughing. I love that.
The crying and all that. I feel like it was a bit. It just got too dark,
just get into the dark side.
Edgelordy for me.
Come over.
Yeah, no,
join us.
My context for that was just because, going in before the movie came out and some of the press and Joaquin Phoenix being asked about like research he'd done or whatever for the Joker, talked about how he's like, I based my laugh, and like the laugh is like the key thing for your Joker. He's like, I based my laugh on the laughter of like maniacal people.
Not maniacal, but people with actual illness.
With like uncontrollable laughter or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And the first few times in the movies when you hear him really get that nice high clicky laugh into the back of his throat, I was like, that's cool. But then when it was actually a plot point in the movie, I was like, damn, you like didn't even need that. You had me at that's my research. That's for me, the movie rings a lot. Like everything is very literal, and I think people are like, yeah, that's what we need to be hearing, saying, and viewing. And it seems like it wasn't very clever in its execution in terms of like stuff like that. It would have been more clever if it was just part of his research, and I don't know.
See, what I liked about it is that like you get to see the difference between his conditional laugh versus a genuine laugh that he actually is able to get at the end, where he actually is happy. Yeah. Because this is a man who finds out that he's happy murdering people.
Yeah, right.
And seeing that contrast at the end I thought was like really cool. Like that's the one thing that Todd Phillips has brought up about the hospital scene at the end, where I'm just like, okay, maybe I'll let that slide, is the fact that the laugh that he gives to that social worker is the only laugh he gives that's his actual genuine laugh. It's the actual one that he's actually happy. That he's having fun.
I will say, at the end when he walks out and his footprints are red, would be a really cool scene in a comic book.
Yeah.
So
but I would
I agree.
Yeah, I wish that was in a different context.
Oh yeah, for sure. You could have started the movie like that or something and been like, oh, so we're gonna get to the point like, how did he get here? So now we're gonna watch the movie, or you could just cut it and use it as a deleted scene, and it would have been fine.
I liked sympathizing with the Joker too. I did. I think that was cool. I mean, I'm not sympathizing with his acts, of course,
right?
But it's like the Breaking Bad thing, or you're following. That's why you say protagonist instead of good guy. Like I like following somebody's, I guess you could say, descent into madness. Definitely definitely gets crazier as it gets along, and it's.
I don't think it got that crazy.
A cool journey.
Though.
Yeah, it didn't get. I felt like it was really pretty tame as well in terms of like the level of violence.
But like shooting somebody on a TV show.
Well, I think it's again people were bringing up that violence because of the context of the fact of what we usually get from these movies, not because it is on its own more violent than anything else.
For sure.
I think that's why it's brought up.
You've got evidence everywhere that you did that too. Like that's definitely like you don't care about yourself anymore. That's a sign of insanity.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that's all part of it.
So when they started getting all upset about all this violence that was happening in the Joker movie, I was like, y'all realize that Chapter 2 just came out and that motherfucker eats children?
Oh, yeah.
And you all are getting upset about a guy... I mean, I get it. It's violent and it's hard to watch and stuff. But I was like, there's a horror movie that just came out about a entity that disguises itself as a clown to eat children, and you see it eat children. And it's rated R. I was
Spoilers.
like,
I think it's that really dark, realistic Scorsese tone.
I agree,
it's more realistic than it is. You know,
where like they can watch it and be like, "Well, it's a horror thing. It's supposed to be like this."
Yeah, but it's a made-up comic book character. Like, have some fucking perspective.
I agree. It's just I understand it because people were watching this and they're like, "Oh, it's about a mentally ill person who decides to plan out and do a violent act," and that's why people were freaking out. And I understand it. I don't agree with it. I don't think this movie obviously was made to glorify anything.
Go watch Halloween 2019, dude.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is all because people see different stuff in different contexts. There's a huge body count in all the John Wick movies and all those horror movies, but people aren't complaining because they go in and they expect that. You give something they don't expect and something, and suddenly like
wait, these people haven't read. Wait, you're telling me people haven't read Joker comics before? Oh man,
that's strange.
It depends though. There's a difference between seeing a comic book thing of somebody laughing themselves to death with a smile on their face versus seeing De Niro get shot in the head in a mainstream R-rated thing.
Right.
It should have been a punchline to a joke.
Should have been an actual joke. Like I agree. Yeah. Like I prefer my Jokers to be funny and scary at the same time.
Yes.
So he didn't have that in him, but I didn't mind it in the context of this movie.
With what Andrew was saying, like I personally don't vibe with the idea that like anybody could be Joker. It's kind of what this picture paints to me. Anybody who's pushed far enough could be the Joker.
I don't get that though.
I think
I didn't get that.
Agree.
That's what the movie is saying with this character. It's like Arthur Fleck.
I'm not saying any
Gotham says that a little bit actually, right? But this movie does not.
And I
do
feel
that.
like Rod Willips.
Wilson Phillips.
I think he designed the environment of Gotham solely for the purpose of being able to make this particular Joker work. And I think it's like kind of shallow because it doesn't really feel like there's like enough leap for this little meek guy who's picked upon to just totally turn.
But you don't think he was beaten up enough?
Well, I mean, physically, I guess, like I said, it's all very literal.
The point that this guy has, not just anybody, but this is a guy that has a abusive past and also
God knows how many illnesses.
I didn't.
Yeah, he's got congenital mental illness, whatever you call it, like hereditary mental illness. Yeah, like there's definitely like some major factors going on here that he's not like everybody, but he is. He's the have-nots. He's like the dregs of society, I guess you could say. Like so. You push somebody with all of these particular factors in a comic movie,
and then what is that saying? That's ridiculous.
Do you not like the Killing Joke then?
I like the comic, yeah.
But you're saying somebody
but
this
is the same idea.
Off their
it's the same idea.
This is going to be
vague.
The movie is saying that it's partially saying that it is kind of society's fault that stuff like this happens.
Yeah, but
we're not supporting these people that need help.
Yeah, for as realistic as it was portrayed, I didn't buy the turn. I didn't buy that this particular person is Joker of Joker fame and lore.
But that's a thing where you kind of let it go with the Elseworlds nature of it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah,
this is not
this
like
version.
And then Batman Begins is like a canon Joker more or less.
And then at that point,
this is an Elseworlds
story.
And
at that point, to me, that being said, it feels flavorless. It's just like it didn't have any real interesting personality in terms of like what set Joaquin Phoenix's Joker apart from any of the others, aside from the obvious things. And I think that's indicative, like the whole film is like all very obvious in its execution conceptually.
I think he had enough personality. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of see what you're saying, but
I'm retreading old complaints.
I don't know, man. Move forward. I can't 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
but I can a certain percentage.
I think it works I think that his journey works for this version of the journey. If I come out of this expecting him to turn into the comic book Joker, then yeah, he doesn't measure up. But also, I'm not expecting him to turn into the comic book Joker yet. It's about the origin of him. It's about him turning into that, and I have to take it off of the context of what they give me, rather than, because I don't need to keep seeing more and more of the same Joker stuff. I like that they went in a different direction. I don't mind the fact, like, yeah, as I said, I prefer my Jokers to be funny and scary. The fact he wasn't funny, though, I'm not going to hold it against the characterization, because this particular version didn't seem like he was supposed to be. And it seemed to fit that for my taste.
Hey everybody, it's Andrew. I just wanted to tell you about our friend Israel's retro gaming shop, Retro Co. If you go to retro-ko.com, you'll be able to see all of his retro gaming goodies. If you wanted to get that Sega Saturn hidden gem from back in the day, or if you wanted to get the Famicom disk system that you never got as a kid, or any other type of retro game that you were into, or import game, please go to retroco.com. That's retro-ko.com. And if you use the SuperHouse code Johnson's Ballsack, you'll be able to get a little bit of a discount at checkout. So please, once again, if you could just go to retroco.com. You can also go to facebook.com/retroco with no hyphen. That's RETROKO. You'll be able to find him on Facebook as well. If you were looking for that PlayStation import game that you never got, if you were looking for that Mega Drive game that you never got, or any other kind of retro game, any import game, it could even be European, Israel also curates bundles at RetroCo, and he'll curate that bundle just for you. So please, go check him out. If you put in the code Johnson's Ballsack at checkout, you'll receive a SuperHouse discount. He's not quite 100% completed that character arc anyway until the very end.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So if there is a sequel, who knows? I mean, they're probably going to be pressured like fuck to make one. I could see Joaquin being the one actor that'd be like, no. But
I read something different.
Really?
I read that
do it?
he's thinking of, like, you know what, I'm just getting obsessed with his character.
Well, it's a hit.
He said
now,
that, really?
You know?
Is that actual from a real source? That's crazy.
Then again, as I said, I wouldn't trust anything that he's saying in the press. So
True.
I
Yeah.
just said that, so I will not hold that too much on it. But yeah, I mean, they'll definitely. We know there's going to be stuff from the studio about it.
He could fuck with the press for sure. I could definitely see
He's like,
that.
guess what? I'm not actually going to do it.
Oh man, yeah. Oh, and Wolfie, I think you like this scene. The scene where he's chasing the guy down, when he does his first kills. That was fucking incredible.
Oh,
man.
the subway. Yeah,
that was fucking.
That
incredible.
was good. Maybe I could have done with more of that. Actually, like more of him actually killing and being happy, like finding this height of joy he's not yet seen, as opposed to the little dance he did, which was like, all right, that's kind of cool, artsy, but it was like no greater than Jared Leto just sitting there squirming in his straitjacket. I was just like, show him.
See, I don't know about that.
Yeah, because
I feel like the dance is cool because it seems like a way of dealing with stress, because he does it right after a high stress situation.
He only does it around. Yeah, he only does it around violence. Like that's what it's supposed to represent. At least it did for me. Like that's what I brought.
That's when we should have heard a more natural, unrestrained laughter, is after he killed those guys.
Or
And
maybe
echoing through
he
the subway.
thinks of really good jokes after
I guess
he kills
my whole
someone.
thing too, and
That would
like
be
as
cool.
much as you guys liked it, like I'm not saying it's like terrible or anything like that, and just my own personal opinions, I didn't like it, but it oh fuck, what was I gonna say? I think it's lost that thought. Cut that shit out.
All right,
on to the next part.
Moving on. So we're gonna get to Indeeds later on, but let's talk about theater experience, because we've actually had this section on before. Before we had, the crazy like warnings about incel violence. We would just talk about our theater experience anyway. There used to be a full-on section, so let's bring it back. And Maddie, what was your theater experience like?
So I went to this little theater. I don't really care for it. It's an AMC.
Okay.
It's like a 21 and up place. They serve alcohol, so only 21-year-olds can get in. 21 and up can get into it. So I go in and there's a cop there. I've never seen a cop there before. I've seen several movies that's really close to my house, and I was like, all right. I mean, fair enough. Who knows what the fuck's gonna happen with this movie? Because previously at work, someone was like, oh my God, fucking people just like can't get, like, it's just a movie. I was like, yeah, well, people do fucked up shit, and I don't care that there's cops or they're trying to prevent another tragedy like at Dark Knight Rises. I'm fine with it. Whatever. I'm just going there to see a movie, right? So I go down, I sit down, I'm enjoying Joker. So I have like a hoodie on, like I kind of have on now, and I have my hood up because I'm just comfortable that way. And the cop walks in, and I'm sitting towards the back because it was like I thought it was going to fill up a lot quicker, and I just didn't want to have to like get out of a seat if I had to use the bathroom because I was coming straight from work, and I do a lot of heavy lifting, and I drink a lot of water. So I was like, might have to leave during some point in this movie, use the bathroom. So a cop comes in, and I was like, I had my hood up, and I could see him out of my the side of my eye, and I was like, oh man, maybe I should put my hood down. Is this guy looking at me? And then I got really in my head about it, and so I like put my hood down, and I was like, all right. So I just sat there. It was weird. I've never had that experience. I've never had a cop in a theater with me. Didn't like for a moment I think I was like kind of out of the movie, but I don't think that had anything to do. It was strange, but maybe a little comforting that like they theater cared enough to be like, hey, we want people to have a good viewing experience and make it safe for people. So that was my experience watching Joker.
Steph and I were in the same theater, actually, but what was your experience like,
I was
Steph?
behind him a fair bit. He didn't see me during the film.
I saw you walk up, actually, but
Yeah.
we were already, it was like, it would have been, actually, I was a little bit too weirded out about being like, hey, like,
Bam, bam,
jumping
bam, bam,
up.
bam.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get fucking shot, so I was just like, I'll just let fucking Wolfie just go sit.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't say anything
It was
to you, but I
fine.
did see you walk to your seat.
So during the trailers, I'm sitting there eating my nachos, right? and this fucking cop next to me reaches over and starts stroking me off.
Woo!
Ooh, nice.
So the nachos are pretty good at the Santa Anita AMC.
Did you get
16.
some cheese on your ping?
Luckily, that cop. Well, I was like, "What are you doing?" And he leaned in close and whispered in my ear, "This is for your own protection." So I let him finish, and luckily that was much before the trailers. Other than that, it was kind of cool being able to stare at the back of Bush's head while I got stroked off by somebody who I perceived to be a cop. I mean, why would he say that?
Damn, that was a great experience, bro. I didn't know that was going on back there.
Better than the movie. No, I'm just kidding.
So you watched it with such clarity. Yeah, so I was expecting to see cops there at our AMC screening. I didn't see any personally other than one jacking you off.
Yeah, he was incognito.
But
Sorry, which theater is this again?
I gotta go.
In the red light district of...
I thought it was going to be something, and I was nervous. Like, I was nervous going in, and I did. Part of me actually liked it. I was like, "Oh, art's dangerous again. Fuck yeah, motherfucker!" But then I was like, "Why am I so excited about this?"
Let me tell you this right now. It doesn't matter if I'm in a school, a restaurant, or a movie theater. I ain't afraid of no motherfucking shooter, baby. You just see first thing me jump over that fucking guard railing like Black Panther or some shit.
I'll be the first to leave all my
I will
friends
dive
behind.
like a peregrine falcon through the shooter's body armor before he can even get one shot off.
I'm
Easy.
consistent, baby.
I'm never worried about that.
I was worried just because we actually literally had the fucking guy calling himself the Joker, killing people in Aurora and Colorado fucking like 10 years ago or something at this point. And all those reports, incel violence and whatnot. But yeah, as of this recording anyway, there hasn't been anything apparently. So that's cool. And I guess that's it as far as theater experience for me. Ben?
There's an armed guard at mine, and similar to Maddie, I had my own paranoia moment where I also felt like maybe I should go to the bathroom. And typically, if you have to go in the middle of the movie, you want to run to the bathroom, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
This theater is staged in a way where I have to run down one hallway, past the guard, then to the bathroom. And I'm like, if I'm running from this movie and the guard sees me, is that going to tip him off or make him think, wait a minute, something's going on in that movie, especially if I'm running in a hurry?
Oh, man.
I ended up holding it through the whole thing.
I'll tell you this as well. Doesn't matter if I'm in a movie theater or a library. I ain't afraid of no goddamn cop with a gun neither. I'll do what I like if I need to pee. Run to the bathroom.
All right, well, I should just pee on him next time.
Cut to Colorado man shot in theater in Los Angeles.
I drove right
California.
through the gates of JPL today to ask him about a tour. That cop looked at me like I was crazy.
We go driving to fucking JPL. He drives right past a fucking security guard, expecting
There's
nothing
a
to
parking
happen.
lot. He looked at me like I was nuts. And he's like, "What are you here for?" I was like, "Do you guys give tours?" He just shook his head no.
No, son.
But man, He had a gun, whatever.
I ain't afraid of no gun.
There
right.
was some paranoia
Bootlicker.
on it. We deliberately picked a theater that was inside of a mall because we thought that was less likely. Again, this is like we're
lot
in
more
Burbank,
places
so we're
to
just like, this is
hide.
probably not going to happen, but we might
Happens
as
where
well.
you least expect, Ben.
Yeah, it does. So we
Dude,
go in, I clock
shootings
in
at
the-
malls happen. Dude, I worked at a mall for 3 years, and
Yeah.
don't go see a movie in a mall. Don't.
All right, well, we just
Did you
did,
get
and I
shot?
survived. we all did, and we survived.
But I gotta have my Cinnabon, my Panda Express.
I clock the armed guard. I clock the fact that there's a sign that says no face paint. I go inside. I clock the fact where the exits are in there. There's about 3 or 4 times where people are randomly getting up in the middle of the movie to go to the bathroom, and it just felt a little
Getting
weird
frisked.
to me. And also,
Yeah, but that's your paranoia 100% right there.
yeah. But then also,
I
I'm
was
just
high as
like,
hell, by the way.
how there was like some radio that went off. There was like some theater employee that came in, like something.
fuck.
It starts making you feel like something's happening. So you immediately start seeing like, okay, like the armrests in front of me are somewhat empty. I can slide down there and all that. Not to turn this into PSA, but like you run through your head in terms of like Homeland Security says. First off, you try to run or escape. If you can't do that, then you hide. And if you can't do that, then you do what you can and fight.
Yeah, for sure, yes.
In all honesty, I did have a lady sitting next to me whose phone went off, like right when the movie started. She just sat through like 20 minutes of trailers, and then as soon as the movie starts, her phone goes off, and I'm
I
like,
didn't hear that.
lady, have you never been to a movie before?
They just told you in that
Turn
fucking
that
PSA.
shit off. I'm trying to get a
right?
hand job over here.
This cop is
This cop is
This cop is
seriously amazing.
throbbing my
Anyway,
knob.
she
Wait,
did,
so the
and I
cop-
was just like, really?
The cop was stroking off, but he didn't say anything when the phone went off?
Yeah,
was
he's
too
a
into it,
terrible
man.
cop.
Terrible cop.
He's
Can't
really
trust
good
these
at hand
guys.
jobs, though.
I mean, it was mediocre.
sure
at
that was a real
best.
cop?
The whole experience was the best part was the nachos. I'll tell you that much.
Wow, all right. So the hand job
on.
wasn't that good then. Okay.
Never mind,
That's the
don't
way it
jump into those
goes.
places.
We hit on this a little bit before, but let's go a little bit more in depth here, real quick. The differences and additions to Canon.
Sure.
Mainly, what I
Canon.
noticed was Thomas Wayne. Let's actually start off with Ben on this one. What do you think?
I mean, if you start with me, then I'm just gonna keep ranting and stuff.
I
feel
like you'll tee up everybody else really well.
Okay, all right. So, I'm actually gonna go a little off tangent just to bring up because I'm just like what I wrote wasn't necessarily changes from canon so much as changes from canon plus references to other things that most of our audience might not already know about. And I'm going to actually start with the Scorsese stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So, obviously, there's a lot of big influence of the Scorsese movies. If you're listening to this podcast and saw the movie but aren't familiar with the filmography, I'm going to go into that. But obviously, King Comedy is the biggest one because
The
it's about
Taxi Driver?
King Comedy more than Taxi Driver, in my opinion.
Oh, I feel a little opposite, actually, but go
Really?
ahead.
Well, I mean, Taxi Driver has the overall story of a lonely man's descent into insanity leading up to a big violent act. But, I mean, King
That's true.
Comedy...
That's true, yeah.
King Comedy has the black girlfriend. It has him living with his mother. It has the whole talk show hopes he's obsessed with. There's the whole imagining how it'd be like on the show. There's him having hallucinations of what would happen or what haven't happened. Now, obviously, there's enough...
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's more like King Comedy.
It's way more
I
like
was
King
wrong. You were
Comedy,
right.
but with the violence of Taxi Driver. Like, it's got the
Correct.
Taxi Driver type scenes of, like, him alone with the gun, him watching TV.
It's most
a
like
lot,
Trading
you know.
Places with Bill Murray.
It's got a lot more of Trading Places in it. No.
He's selling
that would've been great.
shower curtain rings in
Yeah.
one scene.
A hostage situation.
Oh, wait,
would've
no,
been
I'm thinking
great.
of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Go ahead, Ben.
You could say there's some of the other Scorsese movies, like, it's a stretch, though, because, like, supposedly people are also thinking of, like, Mean Streets and Raging Bull, but I'm like, Raging Bull, maybe the way the Comedy Club was shot? I don't know. And then Mean Streets, the fact that it ends in a car accident, but, I mean, that's kind of like a coincidental thing, maybe. One of the other influences that Phillips brought up, was The Man Who Laughs, and that's a 1920s movie where German actor Conrad Veidt is playing Gwynplaine, who is a clown in England in like the old times, who when he was young, his mouth was carved into a smile because of his father's crimes, and so he grows up always smiling, and everyone interprets him as laughing when he's not actually laughing. Yeah.
Crying on the inside, bro.
Yeah, and Conrad Veidt was playing off the contrast of him having to smile while crying. And you can see that. It's a silent movie. And it's public domain because of how old it is, so you can see it on YouTube if you want.
It's 1928, correct?
Yeah, and shots of him painting his face by the mirror. And if you look at how he looks like, you realize, oh, this is where we got the visual of the Joker from.
Yeah, it's
He looks
very
just like
close.
him.
It's close, yeah. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so in terms of references to other versions of canon, we got a whole bunch of shit that I was surprised about. First off, Thomas Wayne being a political candidate. This is not the first time. If you listen to our deep dive in Batman 89, you know the Tom Mankiewicz script, which also had Thomas Wayne as a political candidate whose death was somewhat engineered by the Joker. And then he was a candidate for mayor in Earth One. If you guys are familiar with, if you guys listened to our 1989 deep dive podcast on the 1989 Batman movie, you might have heard me talk about the Tom Mankiewicz script. In that one, Thomas Wayne is a political candidate who is shot down during the time of his candidacy, and the Joker is involved in the death. More directly, because he's the one who hires Joe Chill, but there's a similarity there. And he was also a candidate for mayor in Geoff Johns' Earth One. Joaquin Phoenix lost 52 pounds for this role.
52?
Yeah. Because he was pretty chunky when he first got the role, and I was like, how is this going to look? But then he, lost all... Because, he's abnormally thin.
That shit reminded me of The Crow, by the way. Just like a very thin /
He's even thinner than
fit.
Brandon Lee, yeah.
Yeah, he's... yes, Brandon Lee is just like... Well, they wanted him to look like Iggy Pop. But anyway, just that with the face makeup. Anyway, go ahead.
So this anorexic-looking Joker is kind of like the Neil Adams Joker in a way that I think they wanted to make him thin to match up with the comic book sort of thing.
Yeah.
This is also kind of the first time since the 50s where we're given somewhat of an explanation for the Joker name. Because in the original version, Red Hood falls into the chemicals at the Monarch Playing Card Company. And he's like, oh, because the playing card is responsible for my face, I'm the Joker. And that's how he went with it. In this one, he claims it's because Murray calls him Joker, but I went to the movie with someone who had already seen it, and she said that he does not actually call him that.
No, I heard that.
Really?
Yeah. He says Joker. He says, what's this Joker doing over here or something like that. It's very offhand, but he does say it.
Yeah.
I caught it.
When he's on TV presenting
The first time?
Yeah, he says, who does this guy think he is? Some kind of Joker or something like that?
Yeah.
It's in there.
It's fairly natural.
But it's also it's a new explanation for that. Yeah. Let's see. Big reference to Dark Knight Returns talk show.
Yep.
Right down to the fact that the previous guest is a elderly woman who talks about sex a lot. That is in the Dark Knight Returns.
That is a reference to a character called a real woman called Dr. Ruth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was whenever. By the way, whenever I was like 12, instead of getting the talk from my parents,
you just watched
my
her.
dad handed over a book from Dr. Ruth. It was like, could you read this, son?
That's why you're all fucked up.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I never got the talk from my parents. It was Dr. Ruth's book. Anyway, go ahead, Ben.
Joker technically makes his debut on television in the public airways, which is kind of similar to, in his first story, he would always announce his crimes on the radio at the time because it was 1940. But similar thing, whenever they retell that story, it's always the television. So origin similarities. Obviously, the Killing Joke was a big influence. The fact he's a failed stand-up comedian. The fact he says, I had a bad day. Him being abused as a child by his father or his mom's boyfriend feels like it's kind of tied into a number of different ones. There's the Gotham version with Jerome Valeska. There's Mad Love, where he claims to Harley Quinn that his dad abused him. There's the Dark Knight.
They say that in Mad Love?
Yeah, he says,
God,
the only time my dad was happy was blah, 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 and how, his dad abused him, and that's how he gets Harley to
What about
sympathize with him.
the radiator thing was something made for this movie, right?
It was. It's just the idea of him being abused as a little kid is not...
Right.
Yeah, it's not necessarily something that is not a new thing, really.
And did the radiator... I missed this line. I don't know if you remember or anything, but did it actually cause physical brain damage too, or is that all...
They did mention something about brain damage.
Okay, yeah. So it's not just hereditary.
Yeah, and then also there's another version where, as a kid, his aunt would feel like he was unclean, so she kept bleaching his skin. So this whole history of abuse is common. Him killing his mom is also similar to a couple other versions. There's the Gotham version. There's the one in an issue of Brave and the Bold where the Atom has to go inside the Joker's brain, and he sees a flashback of him burning the house down that contains his parents in them.
Wow, so they've talked about this a lot.
Let's see. The nickname Happy, which is what his mom calls him in Paul Dini's version of it, and I just posted this on Instagram. Hap or Happy was kind of a nickname that Paul Dini's version of Joker kind of used to go by. The actual Joker look with the blue around the eyes is similar to how he's drawn in a comic called Batman the Dark Prince Charming by Enrico Marini. And I don't know, I really like the new design on it because I like the neatness of it while still kind of being new to it. Biggest tie that I saw in terms of similarity between this Joker and another one is tying into my favorite version of the Joker origin, which was the Telltale games. Because in both this and the Telltale game, he is a just a guy. You meet him as originally a guy with mental illness who's initially harmless, kind of nice, but also something off about him. Has spent some time in a mental institution, already has sort of the clown makeup or skin color type of thing. They also say in Telltale's version that he laughs when he's nervous. So there's a scene where Bruce Wayne finds him over the bodies of the first people that he's killed in the game, and John Doe is what he's called before he calls himself Joker, laughs and says, "Sorry, I laugh when I'm nervous." And it's ambiguous whether or not he killed them in self-defense or if he just killed them. And this is also a universe where Thomas Wayne is not the upstanding citizen that you would think he is. In fact, he does have a history of throwing his enemies into Arkham Asylum in the Telltale game. So there's a lot of different things in there. The Telltale versions are my favorite versions still of the Joker origins because I prefer a Joker whose descent is tied directly to Batman or Bruce. This one was a little more indirect. So if you guys heard our past episode on the top 10 Joker origins, I got to revise my ranking. Telltale ones are still number 1 and 2 because there's 2 different versions, but this one takes the number 3 spot.
Oh, nice.
So I do find it superior to the previous adaptations, like live action movie adaptations.
While you were saying this, it kind of reminded me of, I feel like the Joker's not. This is kind of like a whole thematic thing, but I feel like the Joker's not just funny because he's a comedian. That's just part of it. I think it's okay part. I think it's a good addition Alan Moore brought, but generally, especially since Nolan didn't make this up, I'm sure, but he sees the cracks in society so much that nothing is serious anymore. He can't take the world seriously anymore. So he can just laugh at it and nothing matters. Nobody's lives matter. It's this extreme nihilism.
I love that.
See, and I think that this also is kind of, he loses faith in humanity in a sense, especially in the end. So I feel like that theme is still there in this film.
Right. Yeah. I think I find it superior to the Killing Joke version because I always felt the Killing Joke version was kind of just still a light switch where he's just like, oh, just one bad day. Like this guy is a slower descent that I think feels more believable to me at least.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're fucking beat up that much, and again,
both emotionally and
hereditary, mental, and physical, I want to say physical, mental, but
I could have done with a little bit more of like a nihilistic edge.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Maybe earlier on, but
I just feel like that's
you raised good points.
I don't know. I feel like I still got that from the end. Like I still
just
felt
the end though. Just in the end when he's standing on the car, or like maybe the.
I even still got it when he was at the talk show. Like I feel like
this is when I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
No, I just feel like the movie's supposed to lead up to that.
Differences in canon, Stefan.
Now, like after hearing Ben run down that list and recalling some of the imagery that they did show in the film that correlates to those things, I'm like, okay, that's like pretty cool. That's clever. I look at what you said about like the abuse of the father and stuff, because it seems like there were subtle cues in terms of like research for the character and stuff that maybe I missed because I'm not so well steeped in that.
Right, but I would also say that just because you don't know that doesn't necessarily mean that it should add that much more to your enjoyment to it.
Yeah, I mean, after
it's
the fact,
not something Rod Phillips brought up out of his ass.
Yeah,
that's what Ben's saying.
I think I don't like that guy.
In the canon.
Yeah, I think I don't like him as a filmmaker, and that's where the rage comes from. But I think like what you're saying in terms of these correlations it's pretty cool. It's interesting. I like hearing some of that information and kind of informing that into my overall opinion of the film or enjoyment of it. Yeah.
All right, Maddie. All right, can you just go over quickly your thoughts on the differences from canon, especially Thomas Wayne's differences and all that stuff?
Yeah. I mean I don't know what Ben was saying. I heard a little bit of. I like that Thomas Wayne was darker and because he is a 1%er, so it was nice to see like, oh, he's not always great, because from the films anyway, he's always seemed like the savior of Gotham and he never did anything wrong. I'm like, come on, man, really? He's got so much money. Like, he's done some bad shit. Like, even Bruce wasn't perfect. Come on, you know? I mean, I don't know, man. I just don't think I cared for this movie that much. It's just not the Joker I really cared to see. I'm just kind of over the whole, like, let's make it realistic stuff. I just want to lean into more character stuff, and I'm probably more into watching Marvel movies just because they're like, we're putting Iron Man in the Iron Man suit. We're doing this and this, and we're just leaning into it. And I think I'd just much rather see that. And I'd much rather just see a fucking Batman movie because I like Batman more. And Joker's not like my favorite villain. So I had a good time watching it, but I just like at the end, I was like, all right, I've seen a Joker movie. Cool.
I think we're definitely, after the success of this movie, we're getting a fucking Scarecrow's movie, bro. Like, just Scarecrow.
I'm talking Man-Bat, dude. We're never getting that fucking movie.
We're getting a Man-Bat movie, trust me.
Batman Forever. That cut I watched that you sent me, Ben, was amazing. I love that.
If Sony's making a fucking Morbius movie, we're getting a fucking Man-Bat movie,
dude,
bro.
Don't hold your breath. I thought I was going to get 5 seasons of a Swamp Thing series. You know what I got? I got 1, and it was okay.
You don't have to tell me twice, bro.
I thought DC had learned. I thought they'd learned. I thought they were leaning into it.
It's weird because I agree with you exactly in terms of just like I prefer it when they lean into the comics versus the realistic stuff, and that was actually sometimes my concerns when it was Nolan's turn at the bat. But I don't know, for this one, it's like I almost had to make an exception just because of the fact that this was kind of an Elseworlds take.
That's how I view it.
If this was the mainstream version of it, then I would be more worried. But since it's just like, so it's supposed to be like its own alternate thing, then it didn't bother me as much as it would have. Because I'm usually into that stuff. I'm usually into like, why doesn't Joker look like fucking Joker? How come Batman looks like he's wearing a fucking black tennis shoe in The Dark Knight? Like, I'm usually all about that stuff.
There's, okay, for the listener, there's Elseworld stories where fucking Superman lands in fucking Russia, okay? There's an Elseworld story called Speeding Bullets where the fucking Clark's fucking ship lands in Gotham and he becomes a super Batman, okay? And I guess Bruce Wayne's not in the story, I forget. And he gets adopted by the Waynes. So Elseworlds, they take fucking liberties, and that's what this is.
Andrew, I'd watch any one of those movies over Joker.
He's part of a fucking Russian commune. He's a communist. He's full on communist, like kind of evil. He's like he's like basically ruling the world on a granular level. It's crazy. Red Sun is some good shit. Anyway, I'm just like, I go in, I knew about Elseworlds. It's how I view it walking in. So any kind of major differences like that, like Thomas Wayne especially, it's not even as big of a difference as it could have been probably. I thought it was, I don't know. I didn't have a problem with that kind of stuff.
I think what bugs me the most about it is I like Joaquin Phoenix. I think he'd be a good Joker. And the fact that he might do another movie, who knows? But we're never going to see him square off against the Batman. It's just like, what? Why am I watching this? I'd much rather read it, you know? I don't know. I need Batman. Gotta have him. The Batman Joker thing
fit
just
nicely.
works, and I need to see it. And I feel like it's a waste. You have this great actor in this kind of, in my opinion, okay movie, but just having him, he needs to be able to feed and act off something else. It's just it's a Joaquin Phoenix movie, and I just there's no one there acting against him that I don't know. I need some more meat to it, some more meat to the acting. It was just the Joaquin Phoenix show. It's and you even have De Niro in there, and he's not even that good in it. So
I thought it was, I don't know. I feel like you're being too harsh on that one, but I mean,
it's not much of a part, really.
Yeah, well, I get it, but it's
considering
you put
what
De Niro in
all
movie.
the Scorsese stuff we used to. Yeah,
I think it's just an homage to the comedian.
I get it.
Really,
it's just
more than anything.
King of comedy.
It's almost too
King
much.
comedy.
I don't know. I just don't think I like movies anymore, guys.
It's a byproduct of seeing so many,
and that's okay.
Yeah,
it's not even that. I liked Spider-Man Far From Home. I had a great time watching that fucking movie.
I love
when
that
I saw
movie,
this,
man.
I was
haven't
like,
seen it yet. No
all
spoilers.
right.
See, I had opposite feelings. I love this one, and then I felt Far From Home was just like, eh.
Jake
I-
Gyllenhaal though, come on, Ben.
Jakey Jillies.
I really
Jake
thought that
Gyllenhaal
was
was wasted. I thought that he could have, they could have given a way better part.
that
Yeah,
was
I
the
agree.
best Spider-Man movie in my opinion, other than the
What?
animated one. That's my favorite Spider-Man movie, probably. Hot take. It really is.
Homecoming's way
I like him
better.
fighting. I like him fighting drones and fucking like the way he ends with the fucking move to catch the knife or whatever. Like I fucking. Ate
All right,
that
here we
shit
go.
up.
People,
Anyway,
is what we're
Nom, nom,
really
nom.
getting into the Marvel.
Spider-Man
movies.
Far From
Give a
Home.
fuck about DC.
Review.
Welcome to the Spider-Man Far From Home podcast.
it is my favorite Spider-Man movie. All right, here we go. Moving on.
Bullshit. All right.
So we're leaving the review just for a moment here, guys.
talk
We'll
about
get to
Spider-Man?
Indeeds at the very end. Nope. Joker debuted with an estimated 140.5 million internationally. Global. Oh no. Yeah.
Publicity worked. You guys
Global
all fell
total
for it.
stands at $234 million, and I think this movie was a $90 million movie, so it's already made the money
It's
back
already
in the
made it.
first like 3 days. Movie's a huge fucking hit.
Smart.
And also, Rod Phillips did say that we have to do something that Marvel's not going to do, which this is it.
Can't really do this with any Marvel villain at the moment, at least.
I mean, Deadpool did do the first like R-rated.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it wasn't
but
about the
their-
villain.
Their
It
villains
wasn't about the villain,
have fallen
yeah.
short
Venom
in the
sucks,
films.
like
They're
at
just
most,
backdrops.
at most, Infinity War is the Thanos movie.
The best was Baron's whatever his face.
Zemo.
Yeah,
Baron Zemo.
He was
I turned
good.
them
He has
against
like a
each other.
pink hat or something in the fucking or mask
purple-
or something.
purple mask, yeah.
Purple, yeah.
Baron Zemo's
Yeah,
amazing.
no.
He was
War's
good in Civil War. Yeah. Or-
Maddie, you want to see Man-Bat, by the way, real quick?
Yeah.
You're talking about DC Black?
Yeah, so DC Black Films, which is an unofficial name, by the way. But Stefan, Wolfie, real quick, what is the DC Black film that you'd want to see?
I want to see a new take on Constantine. I love
Okay.
Whoa, that's not my choice.
Keanu.
What
I
are we
love
talking about?
Keanu,
What'd you put me into?
But
I didn't even know this
thought
was
you
a
said
que-
you-
What's happening?
he's
Yes, I'd watch a
asking me.
Man-Bat movie, but yeah, I would like a Justice League.
His choice and totally passed him up.
Oh, I see.
What the fuck?
We got to go back to Maddie.
Okay, Maddie, you're first. What is the DC Black
I'm gonna
movie you
change
want to
mine.
see?
I would love to see a Justice League Dark movie. No setup for it. It just is. It has Constantine, Swamp Thing, Deadman. Just fucking lean into it. Etrigan. Fucking everything, man. Just have him take on some fucking mystical, weird-ass, fucking Lovecraftian shit and just... Yeah, I'd watch 3 of those, but if it was just one, like, 3-hour Justice League Dark movie, like, fuck yes, man. I don't need to know anything. I know there's all this, like, we got to set it up. We got to have a Constantine show or a Swamp Thing show. It's like, fuck it, dude. Just throw it out there. Who gives a shit?
All right. Wolfie.
And also, Man-Bat.
Yeah. Now that I'm like running through all these different villains in my head or whatever, like I think a new take on just like a Hellblazer would be cool. But I'm also not super familiar with a lot of those stories. I just think the concept of like demons and magic and shit is great.
R-rated, hard R.
So I would
fucking-
say I want to see a movie. I want to see a movie version adaptation of that Batman episode where all the villains are in the bar and sharing their different stories of fighting DC. Not just Batman, but maybe other like DC heroes or something. Maybe like a roast style thing. Maybe it could just be an online content only or see, like DC Direct.
DCU,
But I think it'd be
Universe,
cool
or
to
HBO
see,
Max.
I think it'd be cool to see more stuff where like the hair's let down with some of these characters. But I don't know. That's
Can I go again?
could be just as stupid as.
You already went twice.
Animal Man
All right,
movie,
go.
please. Thank you, based off the
Okay.
Jeff Lemire
I
comic
don't
run.
know many
Thanks.
DC
That's it.
shit.
Oh, Swamp Thing also appears in that, so Swamp Thing movie too. Okay, I'm done.
DC Black Universe.
All the movies.
Okay, Ben.
I totally cheated on this. Joker 2, Batman's the villain.
Oh, the antagonist?
Yeah, the
Or
antagonist.
yeah.
All right, so I wrote
Nemesis.
something out. I saw the movie last night, and I've been writing down ideas ever since. Okay, so the time after Joker rises up in Gotham. It's become more of a shithole, but the problem is he got what he wanted. He got all the fame and everything. He's bored because there's no one left to fight.
Oh, yeah,
There's
true.
no struggle. There's no struggle. Beforehand, he struggled. He had something to live for, and then at the end, he got everything he wanted.
bored.
It's kind of king.
Bruce Wayne returns to town.
Yeah,
His
true.
quote-unquote little brother, and it's the most... This is R-rated DC Black. This is the most unhinged Bruce Wayne ever. And I'm going to take some liberties with this because timeline-wise, the age won't work out, but fuck it. It's Jake Gyllenhaal.
It's Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
And
Nice.
he's jacked.
I'm in.
And
Sign
he's
me up.
fucking
Got me at
shredded.
We see the full extent of trauma on this Bruce Wayne's life, and he is fucked up. He has to keep listening to the sound of gunshots so that he doesn't initiate the panic response and the stress kicks in or whatever, so that he can desensitize himself from it. Joker sees him
When you
as
say a fucked up Batman, Bruce Wayne, this is like a kind of a PTSD kind of like...
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
I
We
got
explore PTSD with him. It's still going to be Joker's movie, by the way.
somebody fucked him up in Asia. Like, he had such hard training. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah,
His
yeah.
training was like, he didn't go to, well, he probably went to, no, he didn't go to war, but he had so many fights and so much fucked up training in Asia.
Like
they
Cobra
probably had some
Kai.
PTSD from that.
Yeah, he got
Yeah.
beat the shit beaten out of him day
Yeah.
in, day out until he could actually like fight them back.
So he's
Like,
like
they-
the
and they-
Joker?
It makes Liam Neeson look,
Yeah, but
Liam
he
Neeson's
asked for it.
fucking Ra's al Ghul to look like
That looks
fucking
like fun-
daycare
yeah, it looks
compared
like
to what he went through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Did he
he's
ask
back.
for
He's
his
fucked
parents
up.
to be killed, Ben? No.
No, but that's the trauma he's gathering from. So Joker in this version, if we're going off this one, he sees Bruce as the little brother who got the life that he should have had.
Oh, yeah. That's a good twist,
And
too, by the way.
Bruce is always haunted by the image of that clown mask shooting down his parents. And this version of Batman exists to take down the Joker.
Specifically, not just crime in general.
Again,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
DC
yeah,
Black because
yeah.
that's what took them away. And the Joker caused the movement that took his parents away, and now he's going to go after it.
Right.
So we actually get to see the confrontation between Batman and Joker.
Right.
The back and forth that never leads up to that. And we get Batman, maybe he takes down a few of the thugs or whatever, and he gets the Joker, and he grabs them, and he says, now you get what you fucking deserve. And he beats the shit out of him. But we get in the hospital, and Joker's laughing because he gets what he wanted. He finally has an enemy. He finally has somebody to play with. That's my pitch for Joker 2.
That's awesome. I think it's great. So I'm not saying my idea is the best idea, but it's just the first one that came to my mind. It would be Zack Snyder getting an R-rated Thomas Wayne Batman.
I'd watch
With
the
Jeffrey
shit
Dean
out of
Morgan?
that.
Yeah,
Jeffrey Dean
Because
Morgan.
Thomas
awesome.
having some guns, because that Batman has guns.
Okay, I'll
And-
give that one to you.
And I think Snyder would kill that one. He would have a really good time with that one. Yeah, that's my idea. Hard R.
Yeah.
Snyder, Batman guns, Thomas Wayne, Batman.
Yeah.
Elseworlds. Okay. We're wrapping up now, guys. We made it. Let's go over Joker rankings. Just to refresh your memory, we got Phoenix, Romero, Nicholson, Ledger, and Leto. We're not doing the animated ones. We're just doing live action ones.
That's unfair. Unfounded.
No Hamill.
Why
Hamill. 'Cause
not?
Hamill's going to take it every time, by
He's
the way.
the best one.
We're all
Right.
gonna say
Fair
Hamill
enough.
is
Fair
number
enough. Fair
one.
enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Live action only.
Okay.
And movie, too, not Gotham one.
What?
Because
All right.
Romero was
All right.
Joker in the
In
Batman
a
66
movie,
movie.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah.
We're consistent.
Fair enough.
Let's go with Maddie.
Oh, damn it. Fuck.
You want to wait?
No, I'll fucking do it. God damn it. Oh, say, what's my favorite Joker? Okay, so I'm going to have to go with Jared Leto as number 1.
Yeah, Hot Topic fangirl. Hot take.
I love that
I love
damaged
those
tattoo.
Hot Topic outfits. They're so cool. I love all those tattoos. You know, the one
man.
that says ha ha ha, because that's what you get laughed on yourself, like tattooed on yourself as Joker. In all seriousness, folks, I'm just going to say Jared Leto number 1. Just kidding. I would probably, Heath Ledger, man, I just didn't, it was such a, so when Dark Knight came out, Stefan and I were living in Chicago, and it was a big thing. It was weird to live in the city where a Batman movie was being filmed. And I didn't really know what to expect. Like, yeah, I'd seen trailers, but it's just like my life in Chicago, like I wasn't as into movies and watching trailers. Like, I knew it was happening, and it was in the city. And that, like, Heath Ledger's Joker just means a lot because it was, like, shot in a city I lived in. And, like, I remember us going on bike rides really late to try to see the Batmobile. And, like, I went to work, and they're like, oh, they were filming Batman across the street. It's weird. There were helicopters around, and, like, some dude was hanging upside down. I was like, what? And then I see The Dark Knight, and it's fucking Heath Ledger hanging up. Well, it's not an actor, but, you know, it's the Joker. So that Joker just means a lot to me. and just like going and seeing that movie. I saw it at like fucking 9 a.m. or something at an IMAX. Like, it's the earliest I've ever been to a fucking movie, dude. So it would be that, and then I would do Nicholson's Joker, because I mean, like, come on, you know. I've never been a big fan of like the Adam West stuff. So, man, I don't know, man. Fucking Heath Ledger's number one. Just fuck it. Nice person.
Just fuck it.
All right, Stefan?
I think Jack Nicholson delivers on that level of like jokiness and comical villainy that I love about the Joker, but on screen, I would just have to say that Ledger is probably my favorite for sure.
All right. Ben?
I'm going to go from the bottom up. Leto, because anyway.
Oh, wait, could I just say right before you start?
No.
You always butt in.
No, I wanted to add something.
I wanted for what you're going to say.
I wanted to say why, and something happened with my computer, so I just like, I mean, it was a beat. So it was a beat.
Do you like anything about Leto's Joker, Ben?
Never mind.
He's butting to you.
No, I didn't mean to butt in. I was just not finished.
I mean, Leto is out of between him and like the previous take of Ledger. Like, I don't see Ledger having a Harley Quinn. Leto's Joker is believable in having a Harley Quinn.
True.
So
it's true.
I'd give him that one.
The single
he's hot.
He's more likely to have a Harley Quinn than any of the other versions.
That's
true.
It made sense. But a lot of the stuff that he's doing, like, look, I mean, all these guys did their own take on it. There's nobody who's really phoned it in. So, like, he did his own take. I just didn't like the take that much.
I think it was mostly the director at fault, too. Like, just didn't know what to do with
But also, like, he's still, like, it's still his turn to do the material, and it's just...
You think there's more footage of him somewhere?
Maybe.
Like,
he says so,
he was like not in that movie at all.
But even then, I'm just like...
Yeah.
How much of it is really because of editing, though? I mean, what we got, I'm just like, like, it's not my...
Like, I remember him in 2 scenes, maybe, in that movie.
He was in, like, 2 scenes.
And didn't say a damn thing. So, like, did he even really play the Joker?
Apparently, he was cut out quite a bit.
Yeah, he must have sucked ass bad. He must have sucked.
Will Smith would not hang out with him, too. He didn't like him.
Who wants to hang out with Will Smith?
I do.
All right.
Maddie does.
Who's to say?
All right, so Leto's at the bottom. Then I'd put Cesar Romero. Mostly because he was Joker at a time when Joker hadn't really become the character we know and love. He was the best version of Joker at the time, but mainly because Joker was mainly a villain with a gag, and that was it. But the whole homicidal aspect wasn't around, but he did the best he could with the material and really gave it his all. Then I would put Phoenix above it, mainly because kind of what you guys have already been saying about how he doesn't really face a Batman in this, nor does he really become the Joker we know and love. I prefer my Joker's funny and scary at the same time, and he was just scary. He wasn't that funny with it. He wasn't that confident either. Maybe it'll grow if they do Joker 2 with Jake Gyllenhaal's Batman. But he's not quite there yet. Even though I love the movie, I loved his performance. I thought he was amazing in it. But I'm ranking this based off of how they match with how I see the character. Then I would put Nicholson above him. And then I would put Heath Ledger, of course, because of the fact that he still managed that balance between funny and scary. Everybody talked about how scary it was, but I was thrown by how funny he was in The Dark Knight, honestly, which made the scary parts even scarier because you never knew. And he had that unpredictability and everything.
And comedy's mixed with violence.
Yeah.
Like the whole pin trick in the beginning.
Ta-da! Like, it's
just
great.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I want to see,
Clever.
and he had a Batman to play off of. So... Ledger would be the top film Joker. My favorite live action, as I've said on record, is still Cameron Monaghan in Gotham in terms of how he plays it. He doesn't have the best material, but he looks great in the role. He played more than one Joker, and he gave it his all, and it's amazing. And I think the version that he played in season 5, not the final version, but the one that he had before he jumps into chemicals, is probably the best looking live action Joker.
I gotta see that shit.
He's great. I think he's like in terms of live action, like his for my money is like the most enjoyable to watch.
He's basically the Mark Hamill Joker come to life.
Yeah. I think so.
That's
I
probably
think,
how they pitched it.
and then I think that's what it is. It's like the Mark
That's
Hamill
what it
Joker
is.
is just
It's
so
like, this is
deeply burned into my.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like
child
this, it
circuits.
feels like this is how it should be, type of thing. It just feels so perfect, and he had to play that, even though for a majority of the time he wasn't even in Joker makeup. He had to convey being the Joker without actually looking like it.
Right.
So he still takes number one in my book in terms of overall, but Ledger in terms of film, I'd say he hasn't been topped. But a lot of it comes down to characterization and stuff that's beyond the actor's control.
I think just
they all did their own versions of it pretty well.
For sake of it being a film, I think the Ledger one plays the best on one's imagination, like solely for the fact that they don't delve into like his origins, and the whole force of nature aspect of it is like that's in movies. It's just show. It works for that movie. Show don't tell. Sure. Don't show me flashbacks. I don't want to hear a narrator. Like let's just go. And I think that's been
when he says the first like my father or whatever, and then you're like, oh fuck, they explained it. Your first viewing,
yeah,
and then it's like, oh, he's just fucking lying all the time. Like, this is so cool,
so cool.
Yeah, it was so good, man. I'd go Leto at the bottom, of course, and then Romero, and then man, it's kind of sacrilege, especially compared. I'm going to say Nicholson. I liked fucking. I like this one a lot. I did compared to what I just said before. I would put Phoenix as second, then Ledger number one. That could change by the day, but that's how I feel right now.
Yeah, I'm curious if Phoenix does come back. If this ranking will change, If it's Pattinson versus this Joker, it's going to be fucking like... You definitely need a powerhouse actor in this. So I think Pattinson has the range for it. I'd have to see it,
Right.
I'm very excited to see The Lighthouse just for Pattinson against Willem Dafoe, who was, like on the SuperHouse podcast. It's like, he would have made a great Joker.
Everybody
Joker
says
would
that,
never happen.
Yeah, and it's just like,
totally.
I'm just, I mean, that movie looks amazing anyway, and I love The Witch, but I'm just excited to see, like, what that interaction is through the Lighthouse film. But
let's give him Volko instead of Joker, guys. Volko's from Aquaman. All right, so in Deeds, Maddie, out of 10.
oh God, do you really want this,
I feel like you're gonna give me a 3.
dude?
He's gonna say 2.
I'd probably do. Fuck, this is hard. A 4 out of 10 in Deeds. There's some.
All right.
There's some stuff I did like. So there's the one scene where the guy's getting off the train and he does the like back and forth. When he commits his first murder, and I just thought that was really good and there's a lot of points where I was like, all right, I'm here, but maybe it would just take a second viewing or something. I mean, I'm not opposed to. I will watch this film again. And a lot of it.
I've thought that too. I feel like it's gonna change a lot on second viewing.
I don't know if I'm gonna be like, oh my God, it's a 10 out of 10. I'm sorry guys, this was the greatest film I've ever seen.
No,
but it could move up to a 6.
Oh. Fresh tomato. All right, Stefan.
I'll be generous here. I think I do want to say that I think that I'm glad for the people that it really hit right on the nose for, that it's like a movie that wasn't disappointing for like the Joker fan or somebody who was really highly anticipating this film. I think overall my general feelings is that it's kind of like in the middle somewhere. So I think like a 6.
That's way higher than I was expecting.
Yeah, which is
wow.
Yeah, it's generous because I think what they did well, they really did pretty good. Like in terms of like casting, costuming, the music. I thought the rock and roll number 2 or whatever was I said interesting at the time, but I thought that was a really poor choice of music for that moment when Joker's stepping out on the scene. I'm like, this is totally like your like mainstream run of the mill type of like tune to generate some semblance of excitement at mostly sports films. I don't know. That song just doesn't jive with me. Maybe that's just all it is. But I was like, eh. And then the score was awesome. The score was amazing. And the Joker smile at the end, I thought was really just pitch perfect. I just wish moments for it worked for me to where that was like the selling point. It could be like an 8.5, 9, or a 10. But yeah, 6.
Should have ended there.
Yeah,
Ben. The movie, not you.
I think we all agree that it should have ended there.
I got you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you guys are insane. It's for 9 for me.
Nice.
No other final thoughts?
I mean, I feel like I've already harped on it. I don't know. I loved it. I think as somebody who kind of goes back and forth sometimes, it's just like, I don't know how much I like realistic versions. I want more comic book versions. But then also somebody who has kind of wanted to see something that's a lot more character driven in these live action Batman movies. It's like I've gone back and forth in it, but like it has a happy medium of both to me in terms of like it's a nice balance of the realistic with some comic book elements I wasn't expecting to see in there. And I don't know, I'd love to see a sequel, but if not, then we know what's going to happen next. We kind of know the Batman Joker story. I'd love to see him against Pattinson or Gyllenhaal or whatever they do. And we'll just have to see. But hopefully this does at least kick off, if not a Joker sequel, then at least movies that are trying to go outside the norm and not just trying to be another shared universe thing. And are trying to be riskier in terms of what you can do with comic book movies, because that's where the real risk is. I think if they didn't have the Joker label to it, nobody would have seen this movie, and nobody would really be talking about it or call it that risky. It's a risk because of the material, because of what most people are used to going off of, and I want to see more of that in general.
Can I add to that?
No.
Here we go.
You can't. You've already did your final thoughts.
I just wanted to add to what all I wanted to say was that I do really enjoy the fact that this movie can stand on its own, but also because of the mythos it's playing in can be linked to other films. I think that's something that for comic book movies, maybe not so much of this crossover stuff anymore, but allow films to play in the same world without having to be so directly connected. I thought that was cool, because you could juxtapose this Joker movie against any Batman movie and it still works.
Right.
That's all I want to say.
I'm going to go 7.75.
Very precise.
Docking points just because the Scorsese influence was a bit too on the nose, like too strong. It felt like it's just like a cover band at times, a little bit, but
I called it a meme.
I wouldn't. That's too harsh. But I do think the emotional beats, like why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? We're explaining is very realistic. Whenever he says, "You made fun of me," to the guy, it's so sympathetic at the end.
Yeah.
And then he shoots him in the face, of course. But like, I thought that was just done really well. I like the twist. We didn't talk about this. We probably should have. The twist of that the girl not really being there. Again, hinting at mental illness.
That does bring up
not hinting, but
question. Do you guys think that he killed her or not?
Yes.
Purposefully ambiguous by the filmmaker.
But do you think he did?
Before he walked out or whatever?
He might have left her alive because he liked her.
I don't think there was anything to convey that he would have killed her. I think he was just like, it's like...
I want to believe that he did, so I like this movie slightly more.
I don't think so. I love Zazie, so fuck that.
She was great. I thought she was great.
I don't watch Atlanta, boy.
I don't think he did because he didn't dance afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, right. Fair enough. Good observation, actually.
I thought a lot of times it was very powerful, and I don't know. I feel like there's just a certain part of me that when I was younger, I really sunk my teeth into very dark stuff more than I do now. And maybe it's a decade of Marvel movies. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's conditioning on my part. I do feel weird saying that, but like, I don't know. That's why it's not a 10. It would have been a fucking 11 if I swear to God. I would have been an 11. I would have been fucking mesmerizing if I was at an earlier stage in my life. But 7.75, definitely a thumbs up. It's just it was a weird one for me, a weird one.
Right up there with Tomb Raider, though.
Tomb Raider, no.
Alicia Vikander one.
That's more like 4.5
anyway,
territory.
That was a callback.
Oh yeah, we had some talk about that. Anyway. All right, so check SuperHouse on all the social media. Thanks for listening to our deep dive / review, everybody. And please go to patreon.com/SuperHousePodcast to join the Shasta Army. It's $1. And I am Thunderwolf Drew on Twitter and Instagram. And
I am Ben Juan Ryder on Instagram, as well as curate the SuperHouse Podcast Instagram, which is SuperHouse Pod.
Exactly. And
there's a Wolfie. I'm on basically the Superhouse stuff, but I'm nowhere and everywhere at once.
Woo! And Maddie.
You can follow me at Old Beardo on Instagram. Look at my artworks.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We're going to be doing a little old dive into Batman Sub-Zero next, and that's it. This is Andrew signing off.
This is Ben, and that's life.
Adios, muchachos. Wolfie.
Bye-bye.